Hey there, Aries Rising. We are talking about your June astrology. Welcome. I'm Cosmic Girl 101. Thank you for all my return subscribers for your ongoing support on my channel. And if you're new here, you like what you hear, please consider subscribing, giving the channel a thumbs up, or sharing the video. That really does help my little Bubba channel grow. Okay. We're in June now. It's that halfway point of the year, and it's a solstice part of the year, and it comes on June 21st to the 23rd, and it's that shift. The solstice equinox part of the year is when there's changes. So we are in a changeable month, and change is something that always goes on, always happens, whether we proactively make it part of our lives or it just happens. That's life. Welcome to planet Earth. So change is happening in the month of June. We have the summer solstice beginning in the northern hemisphere and the winter solstice beginning in the southern hemisphere. And we think of June, we go, oh, it's halfway through the year. So how's our New Year's resolutions tracking? Do we need to recalibrate, readjust, going in a different direction? Do I stay the line? That's sort of the part of the year where everyone's like, how are we tracking? It's the weighing up part of the year. It's the middle of the year. The path is journeying through the zodiac, and now it gets to the midpoint of the calendar year, and it always brings up questions within ourselves or people around us about what are we going to change or where are we going, where we're heading. So if you're feeling like that, then that would be on point with the solstice, because the solstice part of the journey brings in a new season. So we're doing something for the next 3 months that is bringing in change. So lots of change going on for the Aries rising signs in the month of June and the next 3 months ahead, and for other people. So other people are always going to be going through changes, but you'll be witnessing it more when it's in the solstice part. Okay. So with that in mind, we're going to talk about the planets and transits in this video. What does that mean? Well, we're just talking about, say, Jupiter. Where is Jupiter transiting? What zodiac sign is he in? What dignity is he in? What does that mean for me? But subjectively, it's going to be different for everybody. But ultimately, we're just talking about what the planets and transits mean when we're talking about how they're talking with one another. So how are the planets talking to each other? What it means to be a rising sign. But we're going to open up the video talking about your chart ruler, which is Mars. And when we do talk about Mars, then this is like your footnote. This is like the focus. Even though there's other planetary aspects and transits going on, that's always happening, Aries rising. But where you, as an Aries rising sign, get the goods, the information that I give you, focus on Mars, because he is your avatar in this incarnation. Okay, now let's get into June. So Mars, your chart ruler, continues its transit in Leo. And this transit is happening in your fifth house. So the focus is on the fifth house. So fifth house is about your children, if applicable to you, pregnancy, sex, romance, intimacy, artistic endeavors. That's the fifth house. So that's where your chart ruler is transiting. So you think, wow, I'm really interested in sex, or pregnancy has been prominent. Romance has been on my mind. Children have been extra. Lots going on with children, or the subject of children has been prominent with this transit because your ruling planet Mars has been there. So that means you're around those topics and subjects, or they're more in your face, if you will. And Mars this month is winding up its transit in Leo, and it's going to be moving on into Virgo this month, into your sixth house, and things become a little bit more in your face, if you will, and more prominent, more so than the fifth house. And that's not to say that, oh, I'm not thinking about children, sex, intimacy, pregnancy, or my creative endeavors. Not at all. It just means that your focus becomes a little bit more singular and away from those topics and subjects. So, what does that mean for you with this transit of Mars in Leo winding up in the month of June? Well, your children, if applicable, may be settling down, coming to some real truths about their heart's desire and what they love and what they want and what they pursue with reckless abandonment. Romantic partners, also trying to find an even balance with your sex life and romance, and maybe talking about pregnancy. You either do or you don't. and also anything artistic. Have you put your best foot forward? And what more do you need to do to get out there to be seen and recognized for what you can bring to the table? What artistic flair do you have that people can benefit from? Then you can still think about Mars in Leo as, oh, there's still a bit more I can do here to get out there and be seen and recognized. So that's how I would see this transit playing out for you. So that's like the backbone, if you will, of the month of June. You're winding up the fifth house transit and you're about to go into the sixth house of Virgo transit. Okay. So with all the busyness of the other planetary aspects, that primarily this is your focus as an Aries rising sign. Those topics and subjects of the fifth house are super highlighted. On the 6th, Venus goes into Taurus. Venus goes into her own zodiac sign of rulership. She loves being in Taurus and she also loves being in Libra. So, this transit for Venus, and you think of, oh, we've got a really happy planet. We do. We've got a very content Venus, and Venus, which is all about unity, connection, harmony, love, passion, is interested in things that are valuable to her, what she is attracted to. She focuses on something, she gets it, and there's no apologies necessary. I love that, so I'm going to have it. So Venus is really happy in Taurus, in your second house of finance, livelihood, assets, and possessions. It's a house of skills, skills that you have that bring resources, skills that you have that are like lifelong. They're part of you. You have some skill, and some sort of skill becomes highlighted with Venus in Taurus in your second house with this transit. So if you think of skills, that can be a niche skill that you have, like a unique skill that supports you, and you think, okay, well, how can I bring that to the table and help others? And while I'm doing that, I can actually benefit from resources, but they could be tangible resources, like bartering, for example. I can give this to you, but what can you give me in return that's actually in 3D form, something that actually supports my five senses? That sort of thing could be happening with Venus in your second house with this transit. We also liken this as Venus way when we know she's happy, and you go, okay, well, things might be potentially ripe, if you will, where I can start maybe looking at a new job, maybe look at ways to improve my livelihood. So that means maybe asking for a pay rise, putting your resume into a company that's maybe a little bit, if you will, high end, and you're like, oh, I'm really reaching for the stars here. This would be the time to do it, because Venus is here encouraging for you to turn up your value system a little bit more. You've got the goods, so you might as well get what you deserve. And this is the transit to do it. Venus in her home sign of Taurus, where she's really happy, what you could experience is an influx in tangible things. Anything to do that with things like possessions or an asset become a real possibility. So this, and you think of Venus and Venusian things that are assets. Well, this could be a new relationship. This could be a new relationship with yourself, where you start to turn inwards and think, I really want to play nice with me. I need to love myself more, treat myself better. I deserve to feel amazing. So great for self improvement, new diet, new wardrobe, bringing in new items, like tangible items that feel supportive, that help you in some way, shape, or form. Fantastic for new computers, new phones, new wardrobe, new hairstyle, new car. You get the picture. Anything tangible that's beautiful and attractive that's going to fill your cup up. This transit and this feeling of Venus and Taurus in your second house will have you feeling the need for stepping it up and bringing in more beauty in your everyday space. So, really nice transit if you're ready to turn up the value dial, spend a bit of money on yourself, and bring in an actual tangible asset that really supports you on the day to day and your operations on the day to day, but also gives you a sense of, I'm stepping it up a notch. Really nice transit. On the 8th, Mercury conjuncts Jupiter. And after that conjunction, Mercury ingresses into Cancer until the 26th of June. Okay, so the 8th of June is important. as far as the planets in transits, and also the 9th of June. These 2 days are really important astrologically with a lot of planetary activity. We know that your focus is on the fifth house, yeah? So these are just separate to you. So on the 8th of June, Mercury conjuncts Jupiter. Uh, this could be a change that you're witnessing or hearing about, and it could be to do with travel, siblings, or education. So just keep your ears peeled on the 8th for any intel or correspondence or communication regarding siblings, travel, and education. And then after Mercury conjuncts Jupiter, Mercury goes into Cancer, into your fourth house until the 26th of June. So a really quick transit for Mercury in the fourth house. So if you think of Mercury flying through the fourth house, that fourth house for the Aries rising sign, this fourth house is the house where it's about things that we do behind closed doors, like our sleep, where we rest. It's our home, it's our family, it's about parents and parenting. And Mercury is flying through here in that part of that natal chart. Now, Mercury is active, the mind's active, loves research and intel, likes to travel, is very social, and is connected to finance. That's Mercury. So there's all these meanings of Mercury, and then there's all these meanings of the fourth house. And you're like, well, what does it all mean? Okay. Well, it's a quick transit of Mercury. So Mercury can really exacerbate and kick up intel information that could be really um, changing up the family, the way you sleep, the way you rest, anything to do with real estate or parents. Then there's lots of back and forth and dialogue going on here from the 8th of June to the 26th of June with Mercury in the fourth house of Cancer. And because it is Cancer, this transit where it's like home, family, and there's a lot of intel, a lot of movement going on mentally, physically, socially, or with money in the fourth house of home and privacy, then this can also indicate, because it is Cancer, that we're dealing with something very emotional at the same time. It's not your first rodeo. Your ruling planet Mars, your chart ruler, was in Cancer for quite some time, and so this sort of it's just like a reverberation of maybe something you've experienced earlier in the year, say from September 2024 until April, May of 2025, sort of like bringing back something of that period for you, because Mercury is about the intel. So if you think what were you were doing in when it comes to your rest, your home, family, real estate, property, finance, intel, socializing, a lot of action and movement. Um, this indicates that something's coming back from that time period that needs some attention. And so, what's the attention? Well, the attention is on verbalizing and actually moving now towards something that has a sense of emotional fulfillment. So, talking about finances in the home, or socializing and having events in the home with family, or conversations with parents, like it's time to air the emotional hidden parts of your experience while your ruling planet Mars was there from September to April, May. So you sort of, this is what's been on my mind, and now you talk about it, or this is what's been going on. Now you let everyone know, or you're just ready to move more out of the home with this transit if you felt that you were just in it and not going anywhere fast. So it can indicate a change of residence as well, but a quick change at that. So you may be taking up an offer to go into a new home with this transit as an Aries rising sign when Mercury flies through here from the 8th of June to the 26th of June. Potentially. Know your own natal planets, Aries rising. But it's going to be an active transit because Mercury is active. So think of the fourth house where it's all settled. No, there's going to be activity going on now. Then we get to the 9th, another busy day, Jupiter ingresses into Cancer, joining Mercury. But we know Mercury's only here for a little while. But Jupiter goes into your fourth house, and this transit lasts until the 30th of June 2026. I've done a separate video for the Aries rising signs about this transit. You can look it up on my YouTube channel where I really go into depth. I'm not going to go into super depth here. So Jupiter in Cancer in your fourth house, which we talked about: home, family, real estate, property, parents, parenting, things that you do in private. You know, Cancer, fourth house, we sleep. It's at rest. So Jupiter's going to be in here for a year and change for you. Jupiter, the jolly guy, the jolly one, things are starting to open up. Like, I mean, literally open up. So you think of your mind, your body, spirit, and soul waking up and starting to activate things that have been going on behind closed doors, or things that you deal with in private now become a little bit more public and known. Jupiter, your ninth house and 12th house chart ruler, planetary ruler in the fourth house, where things that haven't been developed or known or expressed become expressed with this transit a lot easier with Jupiter in your fourth house of Cancer. So I would expect, astrologically speaking, for the Aries rising signs, that emotions aren't going to be filtered anymore. They're going to be out and about in your family, within the family. I would expect some big moments of heart's expression, and also that changes up the sense of what has always been that behavior or ingrained part of you that you deal with in private now starts to loosen up. But it loosens up through talking about different ideas and concepts and points of opinion and what needs to change or what's been going on. It's easier to start airing everyone's laundry with Jupiter and Cancer in your fourth house, and a lot more to it than that. So I do encourage you to listen to the video of Jupiter transit in Cancer for the Aries rising signs, which is on my channel. Big transit, really big transit, but a positive one. You know, airing out laundry, especially dormant feelings and emotions, you know, that are maybe bigger than us. You know, they have to come out. So we change. We're in the solstice part of the year. It has to happen. That's life. Okay. Now moving on. Again, still the ninth. Retrograde Pluto squares Venus. So we know Venus is well positioned. We have a very happy Venus where things are becoming obvious that your standards are increasing exponentially. Good for you. But then the ninth, we have retrograde Pluto squaring Venus. So this is like, I want this, I value this, this is important to me. And then we've got someone outside of you, Aries rising, going, I don't really like where this is going, this change, this certainty about what you love, Aries rising, this certainty about your standards becomes a little bit of a sore point for someone in your life. Could be a circle of friends, could be a friend, could be a dream or a goal. You start realizing, that's so small, that's so old hat, I need something else. But it grates on you in some way, because it is a dream and goal of yours, and you start having a conflict with something that you thought was something that was your heart's desire. So that can be troublesome, like really playing on your mind on the ninth. And that 11th house of benefactors, anything benefactors, that could be people that support your career, people that support you, like superiors, people that are in government or tax departments, etc. And then on the ninth, you know, you thought you had something in the bag, you thought everything was okay, and then you hear some pretty disappointing news that could affect your values or your money on the ninth. Okay? Got to be fair income about the potentials, and that's a real potential. Where someone drops the ball or someone just can't deliver the goods, and it affects some part of your finance or an asset or a possession of yours. So watch for that on the ninth. And just for fun on the night, we have another thing happening. We've got Neptune and Saturn, which are in Aries in your first house. They're squaring off with Mercury in Cancer. So this is interesting because a Mercury that likes to kick things up in private and things that go on, the family unit and what we do with real estate and property, it's really not for the whole world to bloody know. Yeah. We usually don't declare our mortgages or how many homes we have or what's going on with our parents. It could be a bit sensitive, like our parents could be going into nursing homes or parents could be moving, or something like that. It's not usually something we herald to the world, that fourth house. It's very private. It's a house of rest, ultimately. And so you've got Mercury really stirring things up, activating it, a lot of talk, a lot of, it's all out there, especially emotions. Mercury just verbalizing emotions and being very raw, if you will. But then we've got Mercury squaring Neptune and Saturn. This is squares is an aspect that's like, I don't agree with that. Something's off. Things aren't coming together. So this Neptune and Saturn in the Aries in your first house is interesting because Neptune and Saturn are working together. Like they're two planets that are so close to one another in transit, the way they're traveling together. So they don't really getting out of each other's spaces. So Neptune, the planet of spirituality, the planet of creating water out of wine, the planet that can feel like we've been hoodwinked if we're not paying close attention, where things become a little bit vague and foggy and a little bit can't really depend on it. That is Neptune, and then Saturn, which is all about dependency, something that's rock solid, very predictable. It's in your face. You cannot ignore Saturn because Saturn has that mountain sensation. This is big, it's in your face, and it's solid, and it ain't going anywhere. That's Saturn. So Saturn and Mercury are working in unison together in your first house. Okay. So think of, not being wishy washy about the reality of life can be a dichotomy you're working with these two planets in your first house. So let's not be wishy washy about the realities of your body, your health, your direction, what you want to start, what you want to begin. So it's seriously like having a solid head on with these guys in your first house, which bodes well for you for seeing the forest with the trees and pitfalls in things that energetically and painfully disrupt things that are really important to you. Okay. And then you have Neptune and Saturn squaring off with Mercury. So you're bringing attention, and the conflict here on the ninth is maybe expressing your heart's desire or what's going on in the home and family that's really pissing you off. So this could be someone judging you, pointing the finger at you, being irritated with you. Well, so be it. But that also presents an opportunity for conversation and hitting something on the head. Okay, so that's the ninth, big day astrologically. On the 11th, full moon in Sagittarius. This one's at 20 degrees and it's happening in the ninth house, the top of your natal chart. So the full moon is like, hey, this is the moon saying, look how bright and beautiful I am. This is big as I get. This is it. And it's in Sagittarius in your ninth house at 20 degrees. So the moon is mother, is environments like our actual environments, people in our environments. It is the people. That's the moon. Very nurturing and compassion. That's the mother. And full on expression that is not seen, it's felt. So you're feeling something quite big. Everyone is at the full moon, and it's an internal thing. Can be expressed outwardly because those feelings bubble. But this one is a moon where you might want to speak up. Makes sense to me with that Saturn Neptune square Mercury, where it could have been some sort of dreadful conversation or a nuance that needs to be talked about or explored more. And this full moon, I think, is piggybacking off that square because Jupiter is in Cancer as well with Mercury. And Jupiter is the ruling planet of Sagittarius. So whenever we look at any astrological event, especially like a full moon, lunation, we need to know where the where the zodiac planet is that rules that zodiac sign. So you know what I mean. We need to know where Jupiter is. Goodness. Well, Jupiter's in that fourth house of Cancer. Okay, so that is the home, the mother, parents, parenting, real estate, property, things that we deal with in private. And then there's the full moon in the ninth house. Yeah, so think, okay, so Jupiter's in the fourth, but the full moon's happening in the ninth house, and that's Jupiter's zodiac sign. Okay, so what does this mean? Well, we've got an expression, like an internal emotional expression about a belief, something religious, something that is foreign, something about travel, like long distance travel, moving, education, higher education, universities, community colleges where you develop and learn a niche skill. That's the ninth house. And the ruler of the ninth house is Jupiter in the fourth house. So, what can be going on here? A mother could be moving, could be changing up her religious path. Someone in the family unit is on the move. They're going into university, they're traveling overseas, they're interacting in a new religious path. That's the full moon in Sagittarius. And we think of it as the peak of it. So this isn't new. So if you have a surprise revelation from someone in the family or your mother, that says, oh, by the way, this is going on or has been going on, this isn't a new thing that they're trumpeting or declaring on the 11th of June. How that sits with you personally as an Aries rising, I don't know, because if you get thrown an absolute wrench, especially with that Mars square Saturn and Neptune earlier in the month, and then like you're confused about or in conflict about conversational communication, then the full moon happens, then this can be where you understand what the conflict or the problem was about. So was it actually you that someone had a problem with? Is because they want to move or relocate? They got a problem with a religious belief, or they're dealing with something foreign, something bigger? This is when you find out. Like you find out the goods, if you will. Because that full moon in Sagittarius in your ninth house trines your first house. Not by degree with the moon at 20 degrees, but it's still trining the first house, which is Saturn and Neptune. So it's like easy to see and know the information because that first house is you. So it's like, oh, now I understand why there was a problem or a conflict or a drama and you saying this, and this. It's because you have a different religious belief to me, or you actually want to go off and do something different. You didn't know how to tell me, that sort of thing. So something in the family, mother, parenting, real estate, property, it all comes to light on the 11th of June. The 13th to the 16th, Uranus is squaring Mars. So your ruling planet is getting a direct square for 3 days. So Uranus is in Taurus with Venus in your second house that we talked about extensively in this video. But Uranus is the maverick of the solar system. Uranus is the awakener, like wake up. Like it slaps you in the face with a fish. That's the only thing I can think of. And you think, what the hell? What was that? That's Uranus. Like, "Ugh, don't you get it? Bang. And sometimes if we don't get something, Uranus can be quite disruptive, and you're just like, oh my God, I can't believe this is happening. It's like, well, how else am I supposed to get your attention other than slap you in the face with a fish? That's Uranus's job. So wherever Uranus is in your own natal chart, you just think, oh, there's something always disruptive about that part of the chart, whatever house it is in the sign. And I go, yeah, because, Uranus is constantly going, hey, this can't keep going on, or this can't be the same. Because Uranus is the awakener, wake up, do something different, try something different. So from the 13th to the 16th, Uranus is looking at your ruling planet Mars in the fifth house of children, sex, pregnancy, romance and intimacy, artistic endeavors. We talked about all of this extensively as well. We know what the fifth house is. So we know Mars is there. So from the 13th to the 16th, think of Uranus comes up and trying very, very hard because it's a square, which is really funny. So I'm giggling about this because you think of Uranus, it's hard for Uranus to slap you in the face with a fish because it's a square. It's like it's difficult to slap you in the face. Oh my goodness. So Uranus is squaring and the tension is, "Ugh, I can't actually get to you, but I just need you to see it, even though it's not full on punching you in the face. But I still need you to know that there's something irritating going on here. Maybe not so acute like a conjunction or an opposition, but it's acute enough for you to go, okay, something's changing here. So from the 13th to the 16th, Uranus is doing its best, if you will, to disrupt a child, a romantic connection, sex, pregnancy, or an artistic endeavor. Uranus is trying to irritate that fifth house. And you think, well, it's irritating enough, but it's not connecting. But that irritation is enough to be exacerbating. Like, oh, this is deep. So, and if you think of the second house of livelihoods, possessions, and assets, skills, and you think that's Uranus in that second house of Taurus, which is pretty solid, pretty dependable zodiac sign. Then a child, a romantic partner, pregnancy, sex, or an artistic endeavor is being challenged by something to do with money, a possession or an asset or a skill. So those people in your life and those topics and subjects are really being affected by something quite tangible, but it can feel irritating to them. So this is outside of you, even though you're in it, but we know Mars is in Leo, impacting those topics and subjects that you're focused on. So you'll be seeing this, witnessing this. So a child comes to you, if applicable, if you have children, and says, I cannot believe that I'm not getting that pay rise. They said this was happening. My boss said this is a sure thing, and then it's not. Or a romantic partner was certain that they were going to get their inheritance or a car. And then all of a sudden, that's not happening. Uranus squaring Mars. It's like the money isn't there, or the uh, the car's a dud, but you don't see it, but it feels like it's the end of the world. But Uranus is trying to go, maybe this isn't the right way to go about it. So the tension here is I want, and it's not happening. It's like hard to grasp, and that's an irritation. But the magic about that is maybe it's not meant for your romantic partner to get the car, or maybe it's not meant to be the line of work that your child's trying to push for so hard. Those sorts of things could be happening on the 13th to the 16th of June, where you're just witnessing things that are near and dear to your heart, Leo, with those topics and subjects, just not getting what they want. So you may be nursing some bruised egos here from the 13th to the 16th of June. The 17th, big day. Okay, now we're talking about your chart ruler Mars moving into Virgo, into the 6th house until the 6th of August. Big shift and change when your chart ruler goes into a different zodiac sign, different house in your natal chart. Big transit and a big deal for an Aries rising sign. So it's going into a house that's about slavery, labor, sickness and illness, services, work. Sound fun? Well, through Hellenistic astrology, Mars is in his joy in the 6th house. This is a side note. So this is a really good transit for you. Well, what's good about Cosmic 101 sickness and illness and slavery and services and work? What's so bloody good about that? Mars is strategic, strong. Mars takes action. Mars is the pioneer. Mars goes for it. Mars is your chart ruler. You're an Aries rising. This is why it's good. Because when Mars is in that very detail focused, orientated zodiac sign of Virgo, Mars has the street smarts to streamline, get into the nitty gritty, intimate details of those 6th house topics with a fine tooth comb with precision. Think of precision, precise action when it comes to services, work, labor, slavery, sickness, and illness. This is where Mars does really well in the 6th house. It's like a power part of the natal chart. And just as a side note, here's a little bit of gold astrological information for you. Mars will be retrograding here in your 6th house on January 2027. So it's a bit of ways away yet. But that means, because Mars takes 2 years to go through a zodiac sign, yeah? What happens with this transit from the 17th of June to the 6th of August? You're going to be revisiting it in 2027. So it is an important transit. So if we know that Mars is your guy, right? And you go, right, Mars has finished its transit in the 5th house, and now Mars goes in the 6th house. And now it's like, let's get down to brass tacks. Let's go there. I want to know the details. I want to know the hurdles. How do I intelligently maneuver through sickness, illness, services, labor, work? How do I bring in a very intelligent strategy with these topics and subjects of the 6th house? Think of Mars going, I love being here. I love the 6th house. I can get really strong here. This is about bodybuilding. This is cutting out things like illness and sickness, things that make us sick. That could be our body, our digestive system, our diet, things that make us feel like crap. Mars is strong, Aries rising. This transit is fabulous. Really, I want you to know that Mars in Virgo is extremely good at detail, perfection, precision, where we purge and cleanse and detox. Virgo, things that are like impurities. So, what is it about the 6th house with those topics and subjects that you can dominate, blaze through, change? This would be a no bullshit transit for you. Give me the details, data, analytics, the logistics. Virgo loves numbers, crunching numbers. He's detailed. Virgo is detailed precision. That Virgo zodiac sign is all about precision, smart, intelligent moves that are grounded, earth component, practical. This is fantastic Aries rising. But keep in your back pocket that Mars is going to be retrograding here as well. So when your avatar Mars retrogrades in January 2027, you think, wow, what am I getting really strong and good at? What am I um, becoming extremely adept at, really good at when it comes to work, health, service, labor, sickness, slavery? What am I being really good at? Strong. And then you think Mars comes into a retrograde into this part of your chart soon because it's not too long. Let's face it, a year doesn't take that long. So you've got a year and a half before Mars comes back here and retrogrades. And you think, oh, so retrogrades is going back over things. Retrograde is um, where things can be uh, retweaked, where we can fine tune. No, that doesn't mean that. I'm going to be honest. Mars, when it's retrograde, your ruling planet is retrograde. You experience this with Mars retrograde in Cancer. You should know what a retrograde is. Retrograde planets means they double down. They really double down. So if this transit of Mars in Virgo, starting on the 17th of June until the August the 6th, and you think, right, what I'm doing now is really important. I'm getting going. I'm becoming the captain of my ship in a most efficient way of eliminating impurity in my life in any way, shape, or form that is detrimental to my health and my body and what I love to do. And then Mars comes back here June 2027 and retrogrades. And that means getting stronger, really white knuckling, um, like a in a chokehold. That's Mars when it's retrograde. No, no, no. I'm staying aligned. Then what happens here from the 17th to the 6th of August is important. Because if you think of Mars going having to come back and do things again or getting stronger and stronger and stronger, then this would be the time to strike in leveling up with anything that makes you feel weak. So you can think of it as you starting a new health program. I'm just thinking of Virgo, or you're starting a new job that's highly precisioned and focused, or detoxing the body, for examples, right? Then getting it right now and having a firm line now will benefit you. Because if Mars, think of Mars having to come back and go over this part, that's irritating. And you think you have to double down on efforts because you've dropped the ball. You haven't stuck to your guns. Now, no pointing fingers here at all, Aries rising, but you do jump in where angels fear to tread and go for things with reckless abandonment. But sticking and staying aligned is hard for an Aries rising. It's hard for the continual focus, if you will. For some, depends on your own natal Mars. So where you are getting into the minutiae details and nitty gritty of the sixth house topics and subjects that we talked about, then have a strategy that keeps you focused, not drop the ball, keeps you engaged. Because then Mars coming back in January 2027, you just may feel, if you haven't been consistent, that you have to go through it again. Whatever you're starting that benefits you, service, health, work, slavery, sickness, and illness, this is the time to do it right. So that's your magical little nugget with this transit. That's why this transit's so important. So important for you as an Aries rising sign. If you are going to execute well laid plans that is about no BS, it takes a lot of attention to detail, it's super important, then have support systems and strategies around you to keep you engaged, to keep you propped up and excited about why you're doing whatever it is that you're doing. Why is it so important? Then have a vision board. Get an app, an inspirational app for every day. You know, you don't have to do things 24 hours a day to get what you want, but you have to dedicate some block of time a day to get what you want for the long-term stability, something stable. Virgo's nothing but about being hyper vigilant about the future and having a harvest there that's dependable. That's Virgo. And that's what Aries rising with this transit with Mars in Virgo and your sixth house is trying to sort of knock on your door, going, hey, if you want something to stick that's going to be a bounty and harvest and it's got some sustainability for you, that's almost, you cannot take it from me. This is the transit to get going. Okay. On the 21st, the sun ingresses into Cancer. So we're at the solstice point now. And the sun in Cancer is going into your fourth house until the 22nd of July. So 4 weeks, the sun is going into that fourth house. We know that Jupiter's there. We know that Mercury's there, but Mercury's moving on the 26th. So we've got the sun cruising through your fourth house of privacy, home, family, real estate, property, parents, parenting. That's fourth house, things that we do in private. So house of rest. And the sun comes in. You think house of rest and the sun shining? Exactly. So this transit is very lively in the home, with family, within family. There's a lot going on and feelings and emotions. And think of exposing, sun shining on them. Get things out. This is almost doubles down on it's time to aerate things that have been lying dormant. Feelings and emotions, get them out there so we can transmute them, move them out of our experience and own it and move forward into something new. That's what you're dealing with the sun. Whatever is not jiving with you, this is the transit to talk about it. Use your voice. Change things up in your home and family. Change things up that you do in private. Change things up with the way you rest. Maybe you're a lot more active with this transit with the sun in the fourth house, so you're not going to get more rest. It's sort of there's too much activity going on. Okay, so that's the sun in your fourth house from the 21st of June until the 22nd of July. The 24th, the sun conjuncts Jupiter. So Jupiter and the sun are like in each other's face. They're right at the same degree in your fourth house on the 24th of June. So you think of the sun and Jupiter coming together, then this is an illumination. Bang, something bright, really bright. The sun is shining on Jupiter. So what's that about? Well, Jupiter rules the 9th house and the 12th house for you as an Aries rising. That 12th house is isolation, solitude, loss, where we feel like we don't have a grasp on ourselves. And the 9th house of expansion through religion, travel, education, things that are foreign to us. So we know that Jupiter's the ruler of those houses and the sun comes and lights it up in the home, within the family unit. And after that full moon, and this will be interesting on the 24th, because this indicates, can you see why this is happening? Because there's big dynamics changing in private, in the home. This sort of like reverberates off the full moon where you're getting more intel of something that has been lost in translation on the 24th. So expect surprising news. The 25th, there is a new moon. So a brand new beginning when it comes to mother, the body, people, your environment. And this is at 4 degrees of Cancer in your fourth house of privacy, home, family, real estate, parents, parenting, brand new beginning. Then the moon's in domicile moon is very content in Cancer, loves being in Cancer. It's a jam. So when you have a new beginning where it's like, this emotionally ticks my boxes, this feels right. There's a new beginning for a mother, something in the home, in the family, something you do in private. That really does fill your soul. It's an emotional breakthrough, brand new beginning. So, an argument within family or a dispute or a change in your home environment now becomes emotionally easy to begin and deal with. So, clearing of the air. It's time for a brand new start with all that talk, all the action in the fourth house. Well, now we're going in a new direction that feels just right. So, the 25th of June is a great day to start something new that feels embodied, nurturing, supportive, beautiful. It just feels on time this 25th of June with all the excitement of all the planets in transits. The 26th, the next day, Mercury leaves Cancer, your fourth house, and then Mercury will go into Leo, where your ruling planet spent some time. So Mercury's coming up behind you, and Mercury's in Leo in your fifth house until the 2nd of September. So it's a slower transit now with Mercury. So Mercury's sort of slowing down, not so fast. So Mercury in the fifth house. So we know this is about sex, pregnancy, children if applicable, romance and dating, and artistic endeavors. And now we bring in Mercury here, where those topics and subjects get really active, like super active. So children traveling more, socializing more, dating more, uh, children enjoying life, uh, romantic partnerships. You know, you're really talking about the intimate details of your relationship, what you want, what they want. Great for communication with romantic partners. Great for internet dating or socializing, going on blind dates with this transit. Artistic endeavors, Mercury. Or maybe you're starting to talk about financial benefits of things that you bring to the table artistically with something that you create, something that you have, a service starts to bring in some actual cash. It's also fantastic for talking about and doing some research about pregnancy. If you're wanting to get pregnant, it's a great transit to talk about it, get it out there. Maybe talk about the costs of pregnancy. This could be about IVF with this transit. That pregnancy, if you want to get pregnant, maybe IVF. If you can't have children naturally, then maybe IVF is a thing that you can research and talk about and start getting the ball rolling with this transit with Mercury here. But Mercury is lively and very bold in Leo. So the dial is going from 0 to 100 with Mercury in Leo. So a active transit. So those topics and subjects of the fifth house, which we've talked about extensively in this video, they become really, really active. Really, it's on, sort of on transit, which is nice. The 29th to the 30th, retrograde Pluto opposes Mercury in Leo. So early in the month, we know that a dream of yours or a hope that you love, near and dear, was sort of grating on your financial reality, if you will, or is it still something you value? We know that Pluto was retrograde, squaring off with Venus in your second house. So now retrograde Pluto is opposed to Mercury in the fifth house. So you think, okay, so friends, benefactors, um, people that, you know, are our tribe, you know, our peeps, people that we connect with our own free will. That's Aquarius and Pluto's retrograde there. And we also know earlier in the month that maybe a child or a romantic partner or something about an artistic endeavor of yours, there was a like a tension or a problem with finance or a possession or asset that's sort of not coming together. Well, now the 29th to the 20 to the 29th to the 30th, sorry, retrograde Pluto in that 11th house is opposing one of your children, one of your romantic partners, something about an artistic endeavor, sex or pregnancy. So this can be difficult to hear a no again. You know, it's not all going to come up roses. And so there can be a lot of information coming your way between the 29th and 30th, about things that are near and dear to your heart: romance, sex, pregnancy, children, artistic endeavor, anything that you love, is getting a pushback. It's like a no, this isn't going to work. So I would expect some more irritation about things just not coming together organically. And sometimes that happens, but there's always the beautiful wisdom of the planets in transit. There's always a reason why. We don't see it now, but it feels insurmountable at the moment when we get a no. So it can be disappointing news that we're hearing on the 29th to the 30th with children, romantic partner, pregnancy, sex, or an artistic endeavor. Yeah. We all go through it. So that's the astrology for the month of June. A lot, huh? There is a lot, absolutely. And we know that your planet, Mars, your chart ruler, is where you really want to keep that focus, or even with all this activity going on. So you're really quite certain, if you will, of your direction, and all this other stuff is noise and movement, but that's life. We all have to go through it. Um, so how would I wrap up this transit for this video for you astrologically? Well, it would seem that it's the fifth house for me, for you, that really is having a knock-on effect for you personally, like what your nearest and dearest are experiencing, things that you really do love, that are going through lots of changes and potentially no's and stops and starts and frustration. Um, it sort of propels you when your ruling planet goes into Virgo, sort of gets you into a new gear or a new path, sort of observing all this disruption and chaos and activity in the home and family and your kids and things that you love. It sort of makes me think, for Aries rising signs, that you need to pull your bootstraps up and get something solid in motion for you, especially Venus in the second house of finance, assets, possessions, valuables, money, your livelihood, and Mars going into the sixth house, and it actually trines that second house where Venus is in Taurus and Uranus. So I'm sort of getting for the Aries rising sign that there's so much going on in the home dynamics and with people and things that you love dearly, that sort of makes you feel like you need to boss up, like really get your head on and get on top of things that are um, not not in line with your moral and ethical compass. It's sort of like the standards really need to be put high, and you're after something that's sustainable and something that's really dependable. So like watching children go through problems with romantic partners, or watching children struggle, or seeing romantic partners not coming together, or your dreams and your hopes really, are they really mine? All the changes in the family and things that are going on in private, it sort of makes me feel that Aries risings are just like, I know that this is life, but I need something really that I can sink my teeth into, that's going to sort of buoyant me in a very safe, predictable, unmovable way, that makes me feel I'm in control of my world here, regardless of other things that we can't avoid. We're in life. Welcome to life. But there's something here, I think Aries is sort of like taking feathers and nuggets of gold out of everyone's hats and what they're going through, and sort of taking it on as your own and building a strategy that makes you stronger. So that's what I'm getting astrologically for the month for you, ultimately, because we're talking about your running planet Mars, yeah? But we know all these other events are happening. So astrologically, I would, and we're just talking astrology here, aren't we? Um, the planet and the transits bodes well. We've got Mars being really strong in the sixth house, in its joy. So there's a joy in chop wood, carry water metaphor. There's a joy in getting things right instead of flimsy and wishy-washy. We want something absolutely solid here when Mars gets into Virgo. And you know that Mars is going to be retrograding here, January 2027, when you're really hyper focused on getting it right. So now's the time to get it right. So when Mars does retrograde, it's not so irritating. All you're doing is going, oh, yeah, I can change that system. Oh, I just need to change that food. Oh, I just need to retreat those services. Oh, my health's really good. Okay, so this is a little bit of the thing I need to help work on there. And it's not so big and insurmountable when you have to come back to it. So best foot forward. Really, Aries rising, best foot forward is the astrological advice when Mars gets into Virgo. Okay, so that is your astrology for the month. I trust you have yourself a wonderful month of June, the midway point. Doesn't that sound fitting with the solstice and then Mars going into Virgo, where it's all like, oh, let's get down to it. That's why it's about change and where everyone's going through, oh, let's get change, let's get detailed. I mean, everyone's going to go through a Mars in Virgo transit. So everyone's going to be head down, bum up sort of metaphor. And that sort of prompts you along too. It's going, oh yeah, everyone else is doing it, getting down to the brass tacks. This is my go time too. So really nice month astrologically, really. Okay, until next time, Aries rising, stay cosmic.